So this video is looking at the sources on Claudius's death. You see the three main authors and a coin. So as per usual on this course, you're going to have three authors telling you exactly the same story from slightly different versions of the same story. So essentially this is focusing around the murder, possibly, of Claudius and the events that occurred after and the motives for the possible murder. So it all comes down to Agrippina. So she is accused of many crimes by informers as well as her unconscious, preventing him from going any further. So this is to do with whether or not Claudius was going to maybe name Britannicus on his own as the next heir. Oh, hang on, sorry, my cat is climbing all over my computer. Very unhelpful, Wilfred, thank you for that. And maybe that's what spurred her into taking the action that she decided to take against Claudius and having him bumped off. Get off me. There we go. Sorry, no longer got a cat sitting on me. Anyway, so most people think that Claudius was poisoned. Okay. But when and whom is disputed. So everyone agrees the same thing. Yes, he died. Oh, hello. Why he died and the manner he died is what is disputed by the source material. So some say it was the eunuch Halotus, his taster, and he administered the drug while he was dining, or it was Agrippina herself who poisoned him with some mushrooms. Don't know, it's one of the two. A variant version, so another version, is he fell into a coma, vomited up the entire contents of his overloaded stomach, and then was poisoned for the second time. This is after the mushrooms, with gruel, so that's like porridgey grossness, or by an enema, which is just charming. So if you don't know what an enema is, it doesn't go in your mouth, let's put it that way. So either way, according to these sources, he was either murdered by his eunuch, his taster, or was done by Agrippina, and if it's by Agrippina, she was possibly murdered twice, because the first time he may have vomited it all up, so that's just lovely. And his death isn't revealed straight away because it's to ensure that Nero's succession is named in the will, etc., etc., etc. And because it wasn't revealed straight away, people were still praying for Claudius to improve his health and get better. But obviously, he does end up dying. That's twice I've done that, and that's obviously very sad for Claudius. Very sad for Claudius. Yeah, I'm sure he didn't want to be killed. But anyway, so either way, he dies, and he's given a funeral, and he's deified. But later on, Nero gets rid of the deification, which is then restored by someone else later. So Nero is also going to be the next emperor we're going to be talking about. Anyway, so then we have Tacitus's version of exactly the same story. So there's someone called Lepida, most likely in relation to one of the many Marcus Lepidus floating around, that she was practicing magic against the life of Empress Consort, so that would be against Agrippina. So on the grounds, death sentence was pronounced, and this is despite the fact that Narcissus, who was one of Claudius's freedmen, was against it. He was getting really suspicious of Agrippina. Fine, this had happened. It sort of jumps around because I hate Tacitus. We've also got evidence that his ex-wife, so Messalina, and Silas had been condemned. Fine. Either way, the important thing is the stepmother's plot aimed at overthrowing the whole imperial house. So this is about Agrippina. So everything that happened to do with Claudius's death is to do with Agrippina, according to Tacitus. So that's the motivation behind it. So according to Tacitus, Claudius started just being unwell because he had loads of anxiety and a feeling mate. Agrippina, long resolved on murder, eager to seize the proffered occasion, with no lack of assistance, sought to devise a type of poison. So she took the opportunity that was present to herself and decided to kill him. So according to some authors, there was poison sprinkled on some mushrooms, as mentioned earlier, that actually the drugs are not felt straight away. Agrippina was obviously really worked up about it because if people would realise what had happened, then she's going to be condemned and it would be obviously awful. So she then turns to a doctor, and according to this version, so under the cover of assisting the emperor struggles to vomit, plunged a feather, gross, dipped in quick poison down his throat, and that's what's actually killed him. Possibly, who knows? Poisoned is the general gist of what you're getting here. So the Senate's convened, consuls and priests formulate vows for imperial safety because they don't know what's happened. And then while that's all kind of going on, the requisite measures are arranged to securing the accession of Nero and others hiding of the will that probably would have named Britannicus. Agrippina sort of acts and looks really sad and sort of looks after Claudius' son Britannicus. However, and to keep up the pretense, she notices that he was getting better, so that gives everybody hope, and that allows her, to pick the time to say when he died, and it's all to do with astrologers, and once the right moon or whatever appears, then she can say, oh, he's died, and he's now named Nero, and Nero will come in with blessings. So on 13th October, suddenly the palace gates open. It gives a bit more detail on the day what happened. Nero is passed out to the cohort of the guards, that'd be the Praetorian guards. The prefect kind of gives a hint that they need to cheer, so then he's cheered, placed in a litter, which is one of those kind of like carrying chair things. People are kind of like, but where's Britannicus? I thought they were going to be doing it. However, they have no choice because it's only Nero in front of him, so they decide to throw their weight behind Nero. So Nero is carried to the camp after a few introductory words suited to the time, promised a donative on the generous scale that of his father, and was saluted as imperator. So he's now named emperor. Vote at the treats was followed by the senatorial decrees, because the senate always follow what the army does. You get divine honours voted to Claudius, funeral solemnities, got there eventually, was celebrated precisely that as a deified Augustus. Cool. His will, however, was not read, lest the preference of the stepson to the son would leave a disquieting impression of injustice and invidiousness upon the mind of the common people. In other words, if he had named his stepson as heir, they would have been like, why is he naming his stepson as heir? Bit suspect. So they just don't read the will in public, which is a bit weird. We then have Josephus' account of exactly the same thing. So we have that it was poisoned by his wife Agrippina, something they all agree on. Agrippina was Britannicus might inherit the empire for his father once he became of age. It probably would have happened, to be honest. Determined to make a preemptive strike to gain the empire for her own child. So it's all about the promotion of Nero, according to the sources. And then essentially it's exactly what Tacitus has said, that he sent with the Praetorian guards and some powerful freedmen, some important freedmen again. Nero then kills Britannicus with poison everybody, and then later murders his mother. That comes into a whole other issue, another source video we do Nero. It's quite an amusing tale. He then later kills his wife and some other Romans because they plot against him. Basically, Nero's not a very nice guy, as we will see as we come through. So essentially, everybody agrees that Claudius was murdered, and he was poisoned, and he was poisoned because Agrippina wanted him poisoned in order for Nero to become the next emperor. How true that is difficult to tell, because obviously the sources don't like Agrippina because she's a powerful woman and she appeared to have power over her husband. It does seem to be a very sudden death, but then again, Claudius was also quite old, and it's Roman times, and, you know, he wasn't a well guy, so maybe he just died. I don't know. I honestly don't know. But according to the sources, he was killed. So you've got the role of women, the role of the wives, murderers, porters of freedmen, etc., etc. He is then deified on a coin. Sorry, it was not on the coin. Sorry, his deification is honoured through a coin. So that's what this coin shows you. Gives us like his funeral procession here, which is cheery. Obviously, sort of just shows that he becomes a god on death, and therefore the way open is now for Nero to become the next emperor.